Cool. All right. Because I know if I sleep the wrong way,
Yeah.
it's a problem in my neck.
If you sleep, yeah.
Yeah, and it makes all kinds of noises. Okay.
Right.
Are we ready? Lighting, production meeting is
Yep,
over.
we're on. We're plugged.
Lights
All of our
plugged in.
sockets are filled.
All sockets are plugged.
The AV production squad is on their game today. Thank you, ladies.
Fantastic, fantastic. Fantastic job. Fantastic job. Round of applause. All right, we'll do a slight countdown.
Go ahead.
5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Jersey Alchemist. I'm your host, Dr. John Gerard Gallucci.
And I'm Philip D'Angelo.
Well, here we go.
Here we go again.
Yep.
Let me tell you, we say it all the time, John. It's another beautiful, well, it's not so beautiful, but it's a Monday in Jersey. I'll tell you one thing. Rainy Mondays should never be allowed, right or wrong. I mean, it's a rainy, drizzly.
Just reminded me of the Carpenters. Remember Karen Carpenter?
Yes, Karen
Rainy
Carpenter.
days and Mondays always get me down.
She was, I think, bulimic.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Either anorexic and or bulimic. She was. I think she was underrated. I think she was fabulous. I just bought like the Carpenters' greatest hits about.
Did
I
you
don't know,
really?
right around like January I did. Yeah, it's on my phone now. And listening to those songs takes you. I don't want to sound like some old fart in a nursing home saying, "I remember back in the 30s."
Bing Crosby.
Yeah, I remember back in the 70s. Close to You was on the radio.
I mean,
Yeah.
but her voice is silky smooth.
Silky.
I mean, that's angelic. I mean, I think
She was
so.
angelic. Yeah.
It was amazing.
She just wasn't this world. Her and this world were, I guess, incompatible.
How old, John, was she when she passed away, Karen Carpenter?
I don't know.
I mean, it's got to be in her 20s or 30s, right?
Yeah.
Some ridiculously
yeah.
low number. But, I mean, I know that's not your profession in the medical field, but how do people not recognize what's going on with a bulimic? I mean, obviously, they're ultra thin.
Yeah.
I mean, and getting thinner. I mean, how does somebody not step up and say, Karen, are you okay?
I don't know if she was bulimic or if she was anorexic because they're related, but they're two different things.
But I know because the opposite, when I put weight on, people start commenting about it. So, I mean, so why when people take weight off, like, why didn't anybody say anything?
I don't know. All I do remember was that I had an acquaintance back in college who was. I asked to deliver to the. I went to the college and I also had a part-time job. I delivered liquor to the college I went to. Shame on me.
They drink in college?
I'm a heathen, right?
Oh, that's unusual.
And it was nonstop. It was the liquor store delivery vehicle, which was me a third of the time. And it was two pizza parlor restaurants that never stopped. We closed at like 10 o'clock at night. I think we had to. But the pizza delivery people just never stopped. But anyway, this one gal that used to be the desk assistant. She lived there, kind of like an RA or something. And she was gorgeous. She was that gal that everybody was like, whoa, wow. And then she started to get thinner and thinner and thinner to the point where, I could see her strap muscles in her neck. And then the word got around that she had anorexia. And then she left college. She left school. And I don't know what happened to her. I don't know. Maybe I should look her up and see if she made it through that. But Karen Carpenter, I don't know if she was anorexic or if she was bulimic, and I'm not an expert in that.
What's the difference, John?
Well, bulimia is when you eat and then you go and you throw up.
Oh, wow.
And one of the hallmarks of a bulimic, other than, I guess, they could have profound weight loss. Apparently, sometimes bulimics are not on the low side with their weight because they eat, they throw up, and then they go and eat again. But very often the enamel on their teeth is worn away because of the gastric acid. That's just terrible.
Wow.
Terrible. Yeah, it really is. Anyway, this is a pretty good segue to a topic that I think needs to have some light shed on it, and that would be obesity, but childhood obesity. And why do I say childhood obesity? Well, because there's a real good chance if you're morbidly obese as a child, you're going to be morbidly obese as an adult, and life is not going to be kind to you. And lots of people are not going to be kind to you, but way, way beyond that, you're just short circuiting your life. And why is it near and dear to me? Well, as a pediatric surgeon, and I'll reiterate all the time because when people, through the last, 25 years of my life, oh yeah, what do you do for a living? Oh yeah, I'm a pediatric. Oh, you're a pediatric. You're a pediatrician. No, I didn't say that. So just recently at a large gathering at a banquet, it was a sweet 16, but it was more like a wedding. The what do they call the guy with the microphone that runs around dancing and bopping and getting everybody to
DJ,
sing? Well, he was a DJ, and I guess he was kind of a party.
the MC,
Yeah,
master of
party
ceremonies.
MC, the stick of dynamite, and I go up there to, because I was in the 16 candle commemorative moment, and he looked at me and on his mic, he goes, what kind of doctor are you? And I said, I'm a pediatric surgeon. He goes, oh, you're a gynecologist. And I went, did you hear me say gynecologist?
Yeah.
And in front of 140 people, I wanted to go over there and stick that mic where the sun didn't shine, Mr. Hostile Johnny here. And I said, no, I says, I'm not a good. I says, where would you get that from? He says, well, you said you were a pediatric surgeon. I said, so saying I'm a pediatric surgeon equates in your mind to me being a gynecologist? I said, no, no. I says, I operate on the baby, not on the hole the baby comes out of. And then all of a sudden he goes, like, that was a drop the mic moment. It's like, really, I just wanted to go over and go, hey, you're doing a great job. Get over here. You.
A distinctive
Yeah.
difference.
So
Yeah.
why? So pediatric childhood obesity. It drives me nuts because it doesn't have to be this way. And it's terrible. It's not a joke. It's horrible. And these kids don't like being morbidly obese.
John, let's say anorexia or childhood obesity. Those are really, they start from it's really a mental issue. Like if you can't satisfy yourself enough with food, you just gorge and keep on eating. Either one, the conditions are mental and they turn out results are physical. But there are definitely, I mean, there's comfort food, right? We've heard that terminology. So if
Oh,
somebody's
yeah.
in stress somewhere in their life, they're stressing. I mean, there's comfort foods that they just
Right.
continue to eat, and as they expand and get unhealthy,
Yeah.
they can't stop.
Well, let me say I am not an expert in anorexia or bulimia. I'm just not. Why would I be? But childhood obesity, wow, it's been in my face for decades. And I want to say this, that I think we have to look at different eras, different timelines. So when the industrial age supplanted the agricultural age, and that moment is said to be around 1870. That's quite a while ago, right? What happened was the families that were running family farms, right? Because back then there were no commercial farms. Um, it was all hands on deck, kind of like any episode of the Waltons. Younger people watching this would say the Who's.
Mm.
Walmart? No, not Walmart. The Waltons. It was a very famous TV show. And it was a family. I don't know where they were. Was it Virginia, Carolina, or
Something
somewhere?
like that, yeah.
And they lived on Walton Mountain, and they ran a family farm together. There was the grandmother, the grandfather, the mother, the father, and I don't know how many kids. 6 kids,
Something like
something
that.
like
Yeah.
that, right? And the more kids you had, the greater the workforce you had. And it had been predicted by I want to say Thomas Jefferson. I think he predicted there would be a day when people um, didn't own land. The land didn't belong to them, and that was because he saw what was coming, and it was, well, there's a parcel of land, maybe it's 500 acres, and that family worked that farm. But then when the boys grew up and took a wife and had families of their own, sometimes or often, more often than not, they would subdivide the land until it got so small that the farms really couldn't sustain themselves. Pieces of land got smaller and smaller and smaller. And they weren't paying taxes back then, land taxes. And today, if you're in New Jersey and you're on a quarter of an acre or less with your house, you're not running a farm off of a quarter of an acre, and depending on where you live, you're paying somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 a year in taxes for your house to be on a quarter of an acre. I don't know what taxes are in Milburn or Short Hills now, but I bet for a quarter of an acre, I bet you they're over 15 grand. Maybe they're closer to 20 grand. I don't know.
Easy. No,
I
there's
don't
no
know.
doubt about it.
So, but childhood obesity, if you, there was a time, I don't think that there were a preponderance of obese children in the late 1800s or the early 1900s. Food just it wasn't available like it
No,
is like
no,
it is
no. It
today.
didn't come off the
And
shelf.
and all the way back then, they had two mentor type people running the show. They had the father and they had the mother in a household. Right. But when the agricultural era, the farming era, was pushed aside and supplanted by the industrial era, it's a double edged sword because the industrialists were the same people that are running the globe today. You think that nation states and governments are running the globe? No, they're not. You've been misled. It's phenomenally wealthy globalists. That's who's running the show. They dangle people who run nations. They pick and choose prime ministers and presidents. Yes, it's true, people. And if you think that the president is picked by a fair and square, transparent election, you're smoking dope. That's what you are a dope.
Hmm.
Yeah. Does that mean you're smoking yourself? Maybe. Um, so if you had the lifestyle that a kid had, late 1800s, early 1900s, you generally working your ass off. You're working your ass off at the behest of the family farm or the family business, and your father was a big influence in your life, and so was your mother. But here comes the industrial era, and the fathers left the homestead to go work in somebody's business. And they were generally agglomerated around rivers. Why? Because the river was a source of energy. It was a source of power. Water wheels that turned an axle, that turned some kind of a piston that made a factory run. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And you can still see them here and there, right? Uh, the fathers were generally out of the sphere of influence of the children. And the children didn't sit around playing video games, slapping all sorts of garbage items into their mouths. No. So life was really all about you get up in the morning, probably when the rooster crowed. God knows when that was, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, maybe earlier. And the whole day was based around merely existing, merely existing. I had a friend of mine that went from Passaic, New Jersey to Whitehorse Mountain up in the middle of nowhere in Washington State, somewhere way, way, way above Seattle. And when he got out there, he cleared the piece of land that he bought. He chopped down trees. He chopped his own wood. He dug his own septic system, and he slowly bought in two halves of a trailer home, and he built himself a beautiful home. And even the people that came from miles around to meet him were astounded that this guy did all of this by himself. He was a monster of a guy. He was like 6'6", 300 pounds. Yeah. Anyway, that's that's all about working your ass off to merely exist. He had, I don't know how many cords of wood. He built a little canopy over it so that the rain and the snow wouldn't, make the wood, wet and rot. So he either did that or he died. And that's the way it was with people all across the world before the industrial era. Here comes the industrial era. The fathers are out of the house for most of the day, long hours, right? And the mothers were still there. But now that the women, and this is a repeat, now that the women are now being removed from the sphere of influence, the kids are not the beneficiaries of tradition. The kids are not the beneficiaries of having a grandmother or a grandfather in the house to help raise them, to help keep them occupied, to teach them how life is and how things should go. No. So they go to school and they're getting taught by only God knows who. Only God knows what they're getting taught in school. Only God knows the crap that's being pumped into their brains by the television programming systems. Right. And every 8 minutes, there's another commercial, slapping Cheetos into your face, slapping this crap and this shit into your face. And, they're not playing in the yard anymore. They're not going, 5, 6, 10 blocks away to play with their friends, to have a game of baseball, football, kick the can, you name it. We were neighborhood dogs. We used to come home at the end of the day. Wow, the calories we must have expended thousands and thousands and thousands of calories. And then when we ate, it was, and then we would run right out the door again. But today, that's all gone. Today, that's all gone. So today, the kids go to school, and I think that the public educational system is something that needs to be rethought. And I have friends that are in the public school systems that are going to, if they bother to watch this, they're going to cringe, they're going to start tightening their fists, they're going to start squeezing their sphincters all over their bodies. You know something? There's a problem. There's a problem in the world. There's a problem with the banking system. There's a problem with big tech. There's a problem with freedom of speech and being censored by certain big companies that I guess we can't name, but you guys know who it is, because if we name it, they'll torpedo us again, right? It's amazing. But it's really crazy because I've seen other people on mass media, on the internet, say the same things we did, and they're still up. And what do? They pick on the little people? We're not even monetized. If you were wondering if we're making tons of money on this, we're not even monetized. We're doing this for a point, to drive home a point. Anyway, back to childhood obesity. The kids come home. First of all, the kids go to school, and they're probably being fed garbage. I've seen some of the school food plans. And Phil mentioned a few episodes ago that some schools will feed the children 3 meals a day. Well, look, if that's what it takes to keep people alive, okay, then God bless the school systems for doing that. But then you really have to look at what the food choices are and how the foods are being manufactured. I don't think that these are, organic, farm to table foods. No, they're processed foods. There's cheese and crackers. There's this, there's that. If there's vegetables, it's just drenched in glyphosate. So, am I being a Debbie Downer here? No, I'm telling you the truth. If you don't like the truth and you think the truth is a Debbie Downer, tough shit. Do something about it. Get involved. You got kids that are in a public school system, find out what they're eating. And if you don't like what they're eating, make them lunch and send them to school with lunch. That's how I ate lunch. It was what my mom made. And back then, the bread didn't have glyphosate in it. None of the wheat products did. Anyway, childhood obesity. You know, there's something to be said for keeping an accounting of calories in, calories out. But every time you take a drink, if a kid takes a drink and it's a fruit drink, it's probably chock full of high fructose corn syrup, which is one of the greatest poisons in the world. How does a kid, how does a kid that's 10 years old become 270 pounds, where their face is so fat that their nostrils are just two little holes? How is that possible? How that is not good, and it's rampant. It's rampant, and let me tell you how rampant it is. It's become normalized because not very long ago, when my residents, my surgery residents, or my pediatric residents would call me up and say, "Oh, Dr. Galucci, we have a consult for you. The kid just transferred in from Gobbledygook Hospital. Oh, yeah, he's got a perforated appendix. Okay, how old? 9. Okay, what's the kid weigh?" And there's some ridiculous number, like the kid's 9 years old and he's 99 kilograms. And I said, 99 pounds? No, 99 kilos. 99 kilograms. And so the general surgeons at the other hospital aren't capable of operating on somebody that's 99 kilograms, right? That's somebody that could play for the New York Giants, 99 kilos. It's times 2.23. That's the conversion. So they send the kid to a center where there's a pediatric surgeon so I can operate on a kid that's 99 kilos or more, or more. How does this happen, Phil? You have anything that you want to?
Absolutely, I do. I think that you touched on something, John, about it being like generational. I mean, I think our parents, look at our parents. I mean, my father and mother, they eat 3 meals a day. They didn't snack in between. They had portion control. It just didn't seem like food was anything that they needed to sustain themselves. I mean, they needed it
Yeah.
a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but I don't remember them ever like, eating all the time or, somehow watching TV with snacks. I mean, that just wasn't them in my
Right.
house.
Right.
But they ate, my mother was home cooked everything, so everything was a delicious, nutritional meal, 100%. I blame our generation. I mean, our generation came in and we just said the rules are gone, and believe me, I'm guilty of it. If I'm hungry, I'm eating, and I'm hungry a lot.
Yeah. No,
But
I know.
but we were still in that generation where we could burn it off. And like you said, now it's video games. You know, if you see a kid outside playing or a bunch of kids, you're like, what the heck? What are those kids? If you see kids on a bike riding down the street, it's almost like what are they doing? Like, where are
Right.
their parents?
Right.
Think about where we went. We went town to town on our
Yeah,
bicycles.
we did.
You
We
would
did.
tell your mother, I'm leaving on a Saturday or a summer
Saturday.
day in the morning, just be home for lunch or just be home for dinner,
Yeah.
and you
No
were
joke.
gone.
No
You
joke.
were gone.
Yeah. It's true.
And you'd ride across town. Who was picking you up from football practice? My father never picked me up from football practice. So after football practice as a kid in grammar school, I'm riding home in a football uniform at night, 6, 7 o'clock at night to the other side of town. Nowadays, they bring you up on charges.
Your father saved my ass one day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember. I don't know if I was in dental school or medical school, but I took the 114 in from Manhattan, so I don't remember, but I think I was on a seasonal break from medical school, so I took the bus from Queens, where my ex lived,
Mhm.
to Port Authority, and then I took the 114 to Cedar Grove, right by Ridge Road and
Ridge and Bradford? No.
Ridge and
Bradford?
Bradford.
Okay.
Ridge and Bradford, of course.
Sure, yeah.
Ridge and Bradford. And it was, there was about a foot of snow on the ground, and the snow
Oh,
was coming
wow.
down sideways, and it was cold, and I just didn't realize that I was completely underdressed.
Oh,
Yeah, and I don't know, I was maybe 100 yards up the hill from Ridge and Bradford toward Croy Court, and I was like, holy mother. My hands were on my ears. I think it was like 10 degrees, and the wind chill was like easily below zero. Next thing I know, your father pulled up in his truck next to me.
say, hey, you need a ride?
He says, you want a ride? And I almost said no. I was like this.
Yeah.
He goes, get in. I
Wow,
was like,
that's
okay.
amazing.
And I think he had like a lot of stuff on
Yeah, yeah.
the passenger seat
Sure,
that,
yeah.
was easy grabbing.
Yeah.
And I got in, and man, I tell you what, I wanted to kiss your old man.
Yeah.
I said, oh my God, you saved my life. He says, well, he goes, yeah, he says, pretty cold out there.
That's funny because if he would have saw me walking, I think he would have honked and kept going. But I'm glad he helped you
He
out.
would have made a left instead of a right.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad he helped you out. That's for sure.
Oh my God, I didn't know how I was going to get home.
Yeah. But if your child nowadays isn't involved with sports, which is all run by parents nowadays, there's no physical activity. What is it like in gym class in high school anymore? I mean, do you even have to take
You know
gym?
what? Maybe somebody can put it in the comments.
Absolutely, please
But
do.
certain school systems, I think gym is
Optional?
it's either optional or it's 2 days a week, or I don't know. But for us, it was 5 days a week.
Now, how is physical fitness not part of an education? I mean, I know there's a health class, but how is physical fitness not part of how to raise a child, how to teach a child, right? That you have to be in shape, you have to be active physically.
I shouldn't be smirking and very close to blurting out with laughter. But apparently, not long ago, it was within the last maybe 4 to 6 months, I heard a news report that the military was in dire straits because so many people that were looking to enlist in the military were failing because they couldn't get by the physical,
Wow.
because they were obese, they couldn't run a half a mile, they couldn't do the push-ups or the sit-ups. Forget about boot camp.
Now, what do you do in that scenario, John? I mean, I know that there's civil service tests that you had to take to become a civil servant, especially a physical job like a police officer or a firefighter. And I know at the time there were a lot of women taking that test. And a lot of women were struggling to pass the physical part of that test. I mean, but what are you going to do? I mean, if that's their dream, I mean, should women, I mean, be in that job? I know that's controversial for me to say, but it's a physical activity. I mean, it's very physical. If you're a firefighter and you're running in a burning building and you have to carry somebody out,
Yeah.
I mean, I know part of the test is carrying dummies over barricades, upstairs, downstairs. I mean, and it's not just against women, but
No.
just, a man who can't do it. I mean,
Right.
it seems like the standards, that's what I'm trying to get at with like the Army, the standards seem to be lowered down a little bit. They're not what they used to be,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
No, it's a problem all around, and the parents should have some awareness that when you have a 5-year-old that's 110 pounds, there's something wrong with that. When you have a 10-year-old that's 200, 220, 250, and you have a 16-year-old that's 345 pounds, what in holy hell are you doing? There's something wrong there. And, so I've watched enough YouTube videos to know that people, you know, the premise of the video might be, who's to blame? And the parents are blaming the school system, and the school system blaming the parents, and then both are blaming the food manufacturers, and then somebody's blaming the producers of television programming. It's all one big horrible shit show. It's a shit show. You got to just start saying no. Avoid all of the high fructose corn syrup. Seriously, one of the lessons that younger parents should know when you go to the supermarket, don't take your kid if you can avoid it. Don't leave them home alone, of course, but if you got to take your kid, avoid going to the interior of the market because that's where most of the shit is sold, the interior. If you'll notice, supermarkets are the same layout in Australia, in Canada, in the United States. I've never been in a supermarket in Europe. I don't know, okay? But it's the periphery where you have your produce, your fish, your meats, your dairy. Look, if you pig out and overeat on anything, you're still not going to be in good shape and you're going to become obese. But it's all of those manufactured foods that you see on television. It's the very berry this, it's the banana wana that, it's gushers and squishers and fruit roll-ups and
It's not even real food.
it's not food, it's fucking garbage. Garbage. And the cereal stuff, look, a long time ago when I was a kid, we ate sugar frosted flakes until my dad went to some national convention for like health, phys ed, whatnot, and he saw some guy named Dr. Brady. It's stuck in my head. Dr. Brady gave like, a whole lecture series to this convention. And then, of course, he was selling his book. My father bought the book, and then he read the book. And I can attribute the disappearance of shitty food items from our house when I was kids to Dr. Brady. My brother and I used to commiserate against my father. Oh, yeah, no more Lucky Charms. Let me guess, because of that Dr. Brady guy. If we met Dr. Brady, he was in trouble, he or she or whatever. But Dr. Brady was right, and my father was right to curtail that crap. We weren't allowed to have sugar frosted flakes, but, cartoons weren't on the television 24/7 on the Cartoon Network or whatever. No, it was Saturday morning from, I think, 8 o'clock in the morning to noon or 1 o'clock. And then that was it. You didn't see the cartoons again until the following Saturday, save for the Flintstones that were on around, when school got out on, the other channels. But it's crazy how our time to sit motionless in front of a television was so limited compared to what it is today. And even if you don't have a television, kids are going to go up to their room and on their bed, they're going to be on their cell phones, bing, 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 flipping through this, doing that, or their iPads. And it's a setup, gang. It's a setup. Humanity has been set up. And by the way, if you think that an iPad or a laptop doesn't emit EMFs, EMFs stand for
Extra.
electromagnetic forces, I think. They come out of a laptop and they're going to bathe your gonads in electromagnetic radiation, which ain't good. And for a girl, they may affect your offspring's ability to have offspring. So you got to be careful of this stuff. And, there are people who, the scoffers and the ridiculers, are going to say, oh, no, but he's such a conspiracy theorist. There's nothing wrong with laptops on your lap. That's how they were made, to be on your lap. You know what? Do yourself a favor. Go on the internet and buy yourself a Faraday bag. Faraday. Faraday. Yeah. And put that in between your laptop and your body. And it'll block the transmission. Look it up. Do your own research.
Hmm.
Back to childhood obesity. How does a kid become 7 years old and is 95 pounds?
Well, it doesn't happen overnight, that's for sure.
Doesn't happen
Let's
overnight.
let's look at fast food, John. We might have touched on this in a prior episode. I mean, there were a couple McDonald's around, but it was a treat. I mean, you weren't going to McDonald's. My with your mother was cooking.
Yeah,
Your
right,
father, your parents wouldn't let you go to McDonald's. Now it's here's $5. Go ahead, go to
right,
McDonald's. And that fast
right,
food, I mean, as good as it may taste. I mean, think of the saturated fat that comes out
right.
of French fries, burgers,
Yeah, and I don't
etc.
I don't know if the previous conversation on fast foods was part of the episode that got torpedoed that you'll never see, the lost episode, because the good doctor here, uh, my version of a certain issue is medical misinformation. The it is, don't tell me, a person who's been a physician for years and years and years, for many decades. Okay? Anyway, um,
Yeah, so fast food. I mean, look how many kids are into fast foods. How many commercials are there? How many different fast food restaurants are there?
right.
You can name 10 right off the
Now,
bat.
right now, and I know from very close friends who have grandchildren and children within their households under their roof, the kids are addicted to certain foods. Well, we all know the old story that the kids won't eat broccoli, they won't eat Brussels sprouts, they won't eat asparagus or whatnot. We know that, we understand that, but there are certain processed foods that are specifically made to have what the industry describes as craveability. What is craveability? Well, it's the casein and other components in cheese that get you to not understand that you're getting addicted, not unlike an opioid. You're getting addicted to the cheese on the goddamn hamburger that you're getting at a fast food outlet. So, if you've ever been at a drive-up window and you want to order what you want, hello, may I help you? Welcome to so and so. Yeah, let me have two hamburgers and French fries and a Coke. That's not what I eat, but that's kind of a standard issue. Yeah, and then they'll say, "Oh, and you want cheese on those burgers, correct?" No, I don't want fucking cheese on the burgers. If I wanted fucking cheese on the burgers, don't you think I would have said it? I love being a maniac.
Yeah,
And because
comes so easy to
those
you.
sweet, yeah, it's so natural. Uh, those sweet people that are trying to make ends meet, making a little extra money, they're told by their greasy shoed managers, you have to ask every order. This is with cheese, correct? Because headquarters in, I don't know where, Iowa, Texas, Illinois, says as a mandate, every order that goes out must have cheese. Why? Because the cheese is addicting. They were even putting sugar into the mix of the patties, the burgers, the pink slime. So I don't, do you guys know how, oh well. There was a time when a certain fast food outlet, when they got the meat that they were grinding and processing to be their burger patties, the meat was so septic, full of bacteria, that it would have made everybody sick, maybe even killed some people. So then they would put into these big, huge industrial stainless steel vats with stirrers. They would put um, a chemical that was lethal if you ingested it. I don't know if it was sodium sulfide or something, right? Some kind of horrible chemical that killed the bacteria. But then the process to go on had to be that they extracted that lethal chemical from the meat mixture, and they would extract it, and then it would be put into an extruder and come out as what they called pink slime, and that pink slime was then poured into patty molds. Boom, 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 boom. They even put sugar into it, and the sugar made it more addicting. If you don't understand about sugar, they've all sorts of studies were done on Sprague-Dawley rats. They're the usual. The Sprague-Dawley white rats are the usual lab rats that are experimented on, and they did studies trying to see where sugar um, panned out, so to speak, on the addictive profile. And they tested sugar against cocaine. And the lab rats quickly became addicted to cocaine. But what the scientific experiments proved was that the lab rats chose sugar every time over cocaine.
Mm.
So sugar is more addicting than cocaine. And the cheese components were somewhere addicting more than cocaine and I think a little less or close to sugar. So these companies were putting sugar into the burger mixes and then having oh, and you want that with cheese too, right? Cheese, right? Oh, because, everybody uses cheese. Hey, fuck you and your cheese.
Wow.
So,
That's the way to
what
put
am
it
I
out.
supposed to say?
No, listen, you're spot on, John, because especially if they purposely know that they're hurting or poisoning people.
Chicken nuggets? Now, I don't know if chicken nuggets is a proprietary, trademark name. So sorry if it is. How about nugget chickens or chicken smuggets or chicken fuckets? Okay? But they're all poison. The last time I ate a hamburger and chicken nuggets, boy, it tasted good going down. And about an hour later, I wanted to kill myself. I couldn't drink enough water to dilute the shit that had gone into my system, the salts, the chemicals, horrible crap. And if you were to put this stuff under a microscope, you'll see it's not chicken at all. It's some kind of mechanically separated chicken gel that gets formed into these little bite-sized things that they call chicken sluggets. That's a good name, chicken sluggets, because if you eat them, you become a slug.
Disgraceful. John, we've said this in the past as well, for people to read labels. If you're going to pick up a package of something at the store, turn around and read that label. Read not only the ingredients, read the sugar content, read the fat content. I mean, when you start reading labels, it's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
Whole Foods is supposed to be like a healthy alternative, correct? But if you pick up some
The
items,
store Whole Foods?
Whole Foods,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
I believe so.
That means that basically we're putting our trust in Jeff Bezos.
Yeah. Well, you turn those packages around on most of those and you read those labels, it doesn't seem so healthy to me.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. And I mean,
Yeah.
if you're a parent out there and you're worried about child obesity and what your kids are consuming, start at home and start with reading labels.
So getting back to the days of old or yesteryear, still within our lifetimes, there was a period in, I'll say, the United States, Canada, probably Australia. Those three countries, I think, are all under the auspices of the Queen.
Hmm.
Yeah, you didn't know that? Yeah. Parents were responsible for their kids. Parents were responsible, uh, the best that they could be in rearing their young. And then something happened where, and I think it was our generation, like you said,
No doubt
our
about it.
generation kind of put on the brakes, the record scratch. It's like, I'm not gonna, no, hey, do you cook? Hey, Paulette, do you cook? Cook. My grandmother cooks. My mother cooks, the old pump of the head. My mother cooks, but if you're dating me because you want me to cook, screw you.
Mm.
Oh, well, see, the guys figured eventually they're going to have to go to work like their dads did anyway. But the girls were saying, I'm going to have a career. I'm not going to be stuck in a house like my mom or like my aunt or like my grandmother. I love them all, but screw that shit. Okay, so now, and listen, I understand. This isn't an anti woman thing. I understand that. But somewhere along the way, the responsibility got dropped like a set of keys down the fucking sewer. Oh shit. My keys, I dropped them, getting out of the car, boink, and they went down the sewer. Now what? Guess what? You're screwed. You're screwed. Why are you screwed? Because now the offspring of that couple, where the guy is no longer competing after college with the rest of the people in your area, right? If we went to college back in the 70s or the 80s, we were competing with the other kids from New Jersey, maybe New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. Not true for my kids, for your kids. They're competing with kids from India and China and Pakistan and Japan and everywhere else for the same global jobs. Thank you, government. Thank you, globalists. Thank you, New World Order. So the guys are having a hard time getting jobs. That's true. And the girls would do anything other than being pegged as, quote, a mom, a housewife, somebody who cooks and cleans. I get it. I understand that. But then what happens to the kids? What happens to your children? Now, I guess Hillary Clinton's right. It takes a village to raise a child. Except who's the village? Who's the village? Who would that be? Really? You're going to put your kids' wherewithal into the hands of the school board? You're going to put your kids' wherewithal into the hands of the libs of TikTok? Have you ever seen that?
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Right, right. I mean,
Unbelievable.
it's a mind blower. And you know something? If you're in line with what those people think that they want for your kids, turn us off, go away, screw yourself. You know something? If that's where you want this country to go, here come the Hunger Games, kids. Here come the Hunger Games, because that's the direction you're pointed in, and you won't be able to say. You won't be able to say, hey, do you know my dad? Because you won't have a fucking dad. You know my mom? No, you won't have a mom. You'll have, I don't know what you'll have. I don't know what you'll have, but I am really sick and tired of how the traditional family is so under attack. Who? By the Satanist gang. You heard me say it. By the Satanist. I wouldn't turn my back on one of those MFers on TikTok if for anything. And I'm going to hand you my children, my grandchildren. You got another fucking guess coming.
Mm. John, I'm agree with what you said 100%. But I'm also a hypocrite. I mean, and I wanted my daughter college educated,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
You want her to be successful,
Yeah.
and you want her to be able to survive on her own, right? Not to be dependent on anybody. Okay, that was the goal, but you know what? I mean, at what cost? I mean, now women, mothers, they're all going to school and they're all career. Now women are just as stressed as men. I mean, if you look in traffic driving to work and who's next to you, it's, somebody, there's a mom or somebody's mom squeezing that steering wheel. I got to get to work. I got to get to work.
Yeah. No,
Where are the kids?
yeah, right. And so, but here's where this is all going. Parents, the husbands and the wives, the dads and the moms, right? They're so full of anxiety. They're so stressed out over How much are we making because we can't pay the bills? And we got 3 kids and they all want to go to college. And it's not just a matter of going to college. Your kid says, I want to go to USC. Wait a minute, you're from Jersey. You think I'm sending you to California? Oh, well, you better, because that's where my friends are going. Or you want to go to NYU. And NYU 5 years ago was coming in at $76,000 a year. So that when you got out with your degree, you could wipe your ass with it for 300,000 post-tax dollars that kiddies, your mama and your papa, don't have it. So are you taking the loans out? Are you? Because you better get a really good fucking job. Oops, laid on the buzzer again, because you're going to have to pay back that $300,000 to get your BS or your BA or your film school degree or your
Communications major.
communications or what's the degree that a lot of people get that go into law enforcement? Criminal justice.
Yeah.
Criminal justice. That's another one, criminal justice, okay? What are you going to do with a degree in criminal justice? Let me say this. I saw it coming. I saw it coming as a teenager. And my father kind of lovingly railroaded me into college to become a teacher like he was. But those were the days when you could be a teacher and still raise a family of 3 and still have enough to retire with. Today, I don't know how a teacher in public school raises a family of 3 and can send them to college and can pay the house off and you could pay all of your bills and still have money to retire. I don't really think it's possible. I don't think it's possible. I don't know. And that, of course, obligates every household to have a dual working household. Mom and dad need to be working full time. And so at the end of every harried day, people almost have PTSD just like every day. Every day, because so many people's bosses are douchebags. And I have worked for a gaggle of douchebags, friend. A gaggle of douchebags that, in the words of Larry Holmes, couldn't hold my jockstrap. But I'm no different. So lots of people are out there tied to their jobs, were debt slaves to the banking system, to the mortgage system, to the tuition and college education system. And maybe when your kids do go to college, there's a bunch of flippy fucking douchebags there that are teaching them to be something that you're not in line with. Now what? So all the while this is going on, they're slapping garbage into their faces. And all of a sudden, everything is one big shit show, gang. And if it sounds like I went down a rabbit hole, I did. I love the rabbit holes. You know why? Because they're all connected. All of the rabbit holes that John Gerard Gallucci goes down on this podcast, they're all connected underground. All of them. The industrial food manufacturers, the agricultural system, the pharmacochemical company systems, the banking system, the healthcare system is all connected. And unless you wake up and realize that you're being screwed, you're never going to see it, you're never going to know it, and you're never going to get your kids out of the bag of shit that we allowed them to be raised in.
John, well said as usual.
This one was depressing. This one actually hit me hard because
it's the children.
There's no sense in Dr. Gallucci going through the mathematics of how we gain weight or maintain our weight or lose weight. It's got nothing to do with the physiology of weight gain as a child. Nothing. If it was all about that, fine, then we can talk about all of that. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with what I'm sure is a sick society. The parents are just too busy and too harried to really give a shit or to really act upon what they need to act upon to keep their kids healthy and safe. So what do? Here, they said the TV is the opium of the masses. Well, now it's the TV and the computer. And it's the TV and the computer and the shit, garbage, processed food that your kids are consuming, whether it's some disgusting false fruit drink with high fructose corn syrup, or the garbage that they're taking to school for lunch, or the garbage that they're getting out of a vending machine, or the garbage that you're feeding them afterwards. I mean, it's untenable. And if you think it's a joke, all you got to do is look at how many obese kids are out there. And what I didn't know, and what I found out just this morning, was Great Britain has a problem that equals ours. It may even be worse. Childhood obesity in Great Britain is off the charts. It's horrible.
John, how can we bring this around full circle? How can we shed some light on this darkness, this topic?
This is a tough one for me.
Yeah.
This is a tough one emotionally for me because I've personally operated on thousands of morbidly obese kids. And it jacks up the incidence of complication. It makes the procedures exceedingly difficult. And everybody wants a little tiny incision that you could barely see. But that's really, really, really difficult. And the odds of getting your little tiny no-see incision when your kid is 10 years old and 250 pounds falls off the edge. Falls off the edge. You got to be a little bit realistic. So, people, please, here goes. I'm going to issue a prayer, okay? See if I can get through my healer's prayer on behalf of childhood obesity. Oh, Lord, cleanse me. Holy Spirit, fall afresh on me and purify my heart, my mind, my body, my soul. May my spirit carry only love and healing energy. Jesus, forgive me my sins as I forgive others. I ask God to help me assist and heal my brothers and sisters. Holy Spirit, fill this space and fall afresh on us now. May the power of Jesus and the Christ light change us, mold us, use us, heal us, anoint us, bless us. Make us instruments of your peace and love, O Lord and Master, for we give our lives to God and the Holy Spirit, so that we may serve our brothers and sisters in Jesus' name. Amen. And that prayer is meant for parents all over the world. Start paying attention. Please start paying attention to where you're going, to how they're being raised, to what they're eating, who they're spending their time with. Now it's not even, that kid down the road. You better not have your kid hanging out with him because he's a troublemaker. It's not even that anymore. Now it's, what were you watching yesterday on YouTube? I got to look into it more, but a dear friend of mine expressed to me that her 11-year-old grandson was watching some cartoon where they were talking about killing people within their household. People, take the prayer I just issued seriously and take evil forces that are running rampant on this planet seriously. We are in spiritual warfare. God bless you all. Start paying attention, people. Otherwise, your families will be lost. And when the families are lost, the country is lost. And when this country is lost, the world is lost. And the rest of the world knows that. Amen. See you soon on The Jersey Alchemist.
Well said, John. If you like what we're doing, please press the like button and subscribe to The Jersey Alchemist. Peace.